Hello and welcome to today's video. Sorry there's been a gap in my video making. I've been away snowboarding and while I was away Jodie Flames contacted me with the beginning of a story that she'd written. It's the beginning of a book, I think, and I want to show you using a viewer's own piece of writing how it's possible to go beyond grade 9, because you know grade 9 is what you'd expect the top 2%, maybe 3% of students at age 16 to be able to produce. And Jodie's already beyond that. She's thinking like a writer. I hope she turns into a writer in the future. So I'm going to show you in this video some ways that she makes the beginning of her story fantastic. The beginning is called the Exposition, and in the Exposition you want to be able to get the reader to work out where they are, what's going on, when it's happening, and what the genre of the text is, what the genre of the novel is. And Jodie does that brilliantly. So hi, I'm Mr. Salles. I've written a quick 2-hour opening which comes to 941 words. My English teacher refuses to read it as he's read my books online and presumes I'll do fine. Well, Jodie, you will. You know, hats off to your English teacher. They're not being cruel here. I'm unsure. Don't worry about that, and your writing here isn't just for your GCSEs. You're thinking about the future, I hope. The protagonist does swear quite a bit, which I've asked Sir about, but he says it's fine. So this is one of the things that I call, or writers call, killing your babies. And the idea behind killing your babies is the things that you really like about your writing are possibly not right for it. And I'm going to show you in the video how actually you can get rid of the swearing and improve it as a piece of writing. Anyway, let's jump in to the Exposition. I've slept in again. I know this because I wake up with a Camara shotgun barrel pressed against my temple and 3 wakers standing around my bed. I sigh, smiling at Waker at the end of my bed. He's pretty cute. C3, you aren't working, the one holding the Camara announces. I hate it when they call us by our initials, but what can you do? I laugh. Yeah, I realise. Another waker throws open my curtains, and by instinct, I flinch. I don't need to flinch. This isn't Earth, but the reflex is still there. Well, there are 4 things I'm going to teach you about this great exposition. Number 1, start mid-action. Now, the great thing about this is the reader gets just enough clues to work out what's going on, but they really have to work it out, and that investment from the reader marks you out as a brilliant writer. Not just obviously in a book, but those of you who are watching and thinking about your exams, it works exactly the same. So let's go back. I've slept in again, so far so boring, but I know this because I wake up with a Camara shotgun pressed against my temple. Brilliant, we're in the action straight away, and the character obviously knows weapons, which is an important clue to us about the kind of person they are. And we haven't heard of a Chimera. What on earth is that? It sounds like it might not be the normal make of a shotgun. So we might be in the future, we don't know. And then when we find out there are 3 wakers, and these people have been sent to wake her up, then we realise we're not in our modern world. So we're either in science fiction in space or science fiction in the future. You know, we just don't know yet, but we've had enough clues to know that we're not in our present day, and we know this is a science fiction genre done really brilliantly in just 2 lines. And now the second thing that you can do to make your context really come alive without spelling it out to your reader is to start naming things. So if we go back, we can see that the shotgun was named, but so are the wakers. The shotgun is named again, and then the speaker, the person who's been sleeping, is called C3. So instantly we know this society is one that doesn't necessarily respect people. They are just reduced to letters and numbers, and that suggests also that they are expendable. And we're going to find out in the next screen that she is in the military of some sort, and we can automatically see that she is an expendable person just from that name. It's really, really sophisticated writing to get the reader to move that far without spelling stuff out. And then if I come down here to Earth, that should actually have a capital, shouldn't it? Because it is a name. And now this is spelling it out slightly for us, but we've probably already got here. This isn't Earth, but the reflex is still there. So this helps us because we still know it's a science fiction, but we know it's not set on Earth, and that setting could prove to be very important later on in the novel. Okay, the third thing to focus on is the characters' actions, thoughts and feelings. That's the thoughts and feelings belonging to this character. I should have had an apostrophe, sorry. And they tell more than they say. I'll show you what that means now if we go back. So I've slept in again, and this is an action, and we know this is a slightly dangerous action because the wakers are sent with an actual shotgun. So there must be real consequences in this society to sleeping in. So immediately we know that our character is a rebel, isn't going to give in to this kind of control. And then we know that she's feeling really calm because she's smiling at the waker. She's very calm being under this sort of pressure, and it lacks fear. After all, the shotgun is being pointed directly at her temple. And finally, we work out that it's probably a girl because she describes the waker as pretty cute. And another thing this does with the language is suggest that she's quite young. So instantly we're into teenage fiction with a protagonist who's probably under 22, that a teenager was being invited to relate to. It's also quite unusual, isn't it, to have science fiction stories written by female authors, and this is a really good way of embracing that, you know, not writing about a male protagonist but having a female one in a male role. And that's one of the joys of writing science fiction, is you take our society and you say, well, you know, what if women were able to fight on the front line? What would they be like as soldiers? And as we see, she turns out to be incredibly brave, and as we've just seen here, in her lack of fear at the wakers, she's also very, very brave. Then we have her reaction, I laugh, and again that emphasizes her lack of fear. But interestingly, there is a distrust of light that she doesn't like, and this presents the character as metaphorically dark. So she's potentially going to be a difficult human being, not a character who's completely easy to like. And that's important. If you think of the best books or the best TV series, you often get characters who have flaws. We like them, but we still understand their weaknesses. So your job is to practice those 4 things yourself. We're going to leap to the next part of the story, where hopefully you'll spot these things going on, but I also want to deal with the baby, the swearing. So here we go. Get moving, C3. Grieve will want to speak to you. The Chimera wielder is again the one that speaks. It's a shame. I want to know what the cute guy sounds like. They march out of my room in single file, and the door presses shut behind them. Effing wakers. I do get up, though. It's best not to piss off Grieve. I don't want to be thrown out of an airlock or something. Not that he's done that to a soldier, but I wouldn't put it past him. I kick at the sheet draped over my legs until it untangles itself, and then I make my way towards the window. So here you can see exactly the same 4 skills going on. But what about the swearing? Well, this is actually quite funny because the proximity between wakers and putting an N in the word, but it's funny because it's not spelt out. This lacks humour because it is spelt out, and it's only just conveying the character's anger. Well, we don't need the swearing to convey the character's anger. It's a kind of lazy device. So you could have a moderate bit of swearing, like bloody, for example, but it's not essential. You could just have a single word sentence that would similarly convey your anger. If we go forward to the next bit, I've had to asterisk that swear word there. And again, it's just there to show your character's anger. Well, why don't you need that? Well, hopefully this will tell you. This is Lee Child. He is an Englishman living in America, and he sells a book every 20 seconds and has sold over 100 million copies of his Jack Reacher books. If you haven't read one yet, within the next 5 years, you will. And, you know, he regularly fights in all of the novels, and often he kills, but he never swears. And other characters don't swear at him. And I'm telling you this for two reasons. You can convey anger in lots of different ways without having to swear. It's kind of a lazy way to do it. But also, readers don't demand it. As you can see by the fact that one of these books is sold every 20 seconds. So you're still an honest writer. You've still got your individuality, and you've still got, if you like, credibility. You just don't need to swear in your novel. That's not saying don't, you know, plenty of writers do, but it's much more useful if it's to reveal a character's personality or the society in which they live in. But most of the time it just isn't necessary. So, swearing aside, what do we learn from this new bit of the story? As always, the view makes me feel sick. There's nothing but darkness. Some of the other soldiers say they joined the program just so they could wake up for the view, but I didn't. Space sickens me. So this is a powerful way of getting us to work out what it is that motivates the character. Now, we don't know yet, but we know that she's not a typical soldier, and that she's doing something that really upsets her, and therefore the reward must be much greater, this imagined reward of why she's joined the army. This is a really sophisticated way of getting us to understand the character's motives. I try not to take too much time getting dressed into my armour, but my helmet is a bitch. After at least 10 minutes I step out of my room and out onto the stream. So this swearing here may be useful because the helmet may turn out to be what saves her when she eventually gets thrown out into an airlock. So the fact that she struggled to get into the helmet may prove to be relevant. That's why I've left that in as it is. It could serve the story. Normally the stream is packed with other soldiers following the same routine, but as the waker said, I was late. I don't know how the other soldiers managed to wake up. Oh dear me. Let's correct that spelling there, very typical one of soldiers. Managed to wake up dead at shift, but they do. It makes me look like a soldier, I know that much. So this bit's useful, not in that it's telling us she's late, which we already know, but that this character is feeling under pressure and failing in some respect. So we've got an element of conflict in the character, and conflict always makes us much more interested in them. So let's go back. Hopefully you can see how skillfully Jodie has used all these four things. And if we look at the fourth again, we know that the time is probably the future, the place is in space, and the genre is science fiction. We also know more about what kind of science fiction. It's going to be a violent war story. Everything's pointing us that way. And we've got to know the character really well here, even though she's only got this name C3. We don't know her proper name, we don't know her age. We've been able to infer it though. We know she's young, we know she's got a purpose to be in space, we know she's, because she doesn't like it there, we know she's got to be a purpose to be a soldier because she's atypical, she's not like the other soldiers. And all that's packed into just those first few hundred words. Really, really skillful writing. So go away and play. And in my next video, I'm going to look at the rest of that opening and teach you how to get rid of detail that you don't need. This is really an advanced technique, although I say that weaker writers do this all the time. They include loads of techniques and loads of information that the reader doesn't need. Jodie hasn't here. I've tried to show you how all these four things replace lots of information. They're just gentle clues that make us work the information out. So do watch that second video if you want to get really good at writing. And Jodie, I hope you're watching and you'll take something out of it. And don't forget to subscribe if you want more. Good luck.